This is Sogo. While mining ore at night, he suddenly sees a flash of light across the sky. The beam then shoots straight down to where he are. After regaining consciousness, Sogo is surprised to find a beautiful and precious stone in his hand. He then happily runs home. When returning to town, Sogo speeds at full force but slows down when encountering the police, showing good judgment. He then rushes off and nearly collides with a little girl who just ran into the street. Luckily, his driving skills help him avoid her. He then returns home and informs his uncle Dahlman that he has just returned from mining. He then goes up to his room and begins to examine the stone, believing he has found what his mother has long hoped for. Suddenly, he sees some kind of hallucination. Uncle Dahlman calls Sogo and asks if he has brought back bread, which startles him into rushing out to get it for his uncle. Meanwhile, a government organization has detected unusual energy at the mountain ravine where Sogo went mining this morning, so they send a captain from the organization to lead troops there to investigate. The captain then receives orders and begins to prepare diving equipment for the troops to descend into the deep cave to investigate. At this time, Sogo has gone to buy bread for his uncle, and the shop owner asks him to send her greetings to his uncle. He then drives back, when suddenly the stone in his pocket unexpectedly unleashes some kind of power that blows him away and causes him to fall right where his friend Kaon is. She then urges him to get up and climb onto the bike, telling him to drive quickly. Sogo hears someone calling Kaon, but she still urges him to drive fast and even actively turns the throttle to ride away with him. But soon after, a young man named Roman chases after both of them in a car. He asks why Kaon won't try on the wedding dress and is running away. She says she doesn't like this arranged marriage set up by their parents. Roman argues that this is for the benefit of the two families, so emotions are not important in this relationship. She finds Roman's words ridiculous and asks Sogo if he agrees. Roman's younger brother Otto suddenly pops out and asks if Sogo is behind this. Kaon then actively turns the throttle, causing her and Sogo to speed ahead. Roman tries to demand Kaon return, but she refuses to listen, so Roman has to tell Otto to force Sogo to the side of the road. They then crash through a steam cloud and split in two different directions. Sogo and Kaon suddenly plunge straight along a pipe and then fall into a huge deep hole. Sogo and Kaon are then in the cave, and Kaon feels guilty for getting Sogo into trouble, but he doesn't want her to worry about it. They both then realize they have fallen quite deep. Kaon suddenly sees something running by and panics, running to hug Sogo, but then feels embarrassed and lets go. Meanwhile, Roman and Otto have also descended into the cave to look for the other two, but now they too are lost, not knowing where they are. Sogo is now trying to fix their vehicle. He thinks that if he can fix it, they can escape because there's the sound of running water, so there must be a way out. But Kaon thinks he's joking. Suddenly, the government organization detonates something in this cave, causing the entire cave to shake. The lake right in front of Sogo and Kaon suddenly lights up and the water is completely drained, revealing a pillar with a red glowing crystal inside. He and Kaon then run to the stone pillar. The stone in his pocket is suddenly drawn into the crystal. It then breaks the pillar and escapes. The crystal transforms into a girl and falls gently into Sogo's arms. He still doesn't understand what's happening when suddenly the robots of that organization arrive. They don't understand why there are miners here, but more importantly, they see that both are holding what they need to find, so they rush in, forcing Sogo and Kaon to run away. But both are cornered, and surprisingly, the girl Sogo is holding summons a mecha to confront the organization's robot. This mecha then repeatedly smashes the organization's robot and throws it away. The mecha then rushes in for a finishing blow. The captain on the other side sees this situation and realizes things seem to be very interesting. The mecha then advances towards Sogo when the captain suddenly brings a robot to confront it. The captain continuously fires at the mecha. Kaon wants Sogo to take the opportunity to leave, but the mecha suddenly breaks the captain's gun and chases after Sogo. The captain has fired a hook and pulled the mecha back. He doesn't understand why this mecha cares about the 3 children instead of him when his superiors ask why their target is moving. He checks the radar again and discovers that the real target is the girl Sogo is carrying. The mecha has broken the captain's steel wire and escaped, but he rushes to attack and pushes it away. The mecha crashes into a pillar, causing dust and smoke to spread everywhere. It then takes advantage of this chaos to grab the captain's leg and crush the camera so he can't move anymore. But the cave suddenly collapses, causing Sogo and Kaon to fall even deeper. Sogo then tries to reach for Kaon and the girl, and suddenly the mecha flies down to catch all 3 and helps them land safely. Sogo then meets Roman and Otto again. The 2 brothers have found a way out, so they will lead Sogo's group along. They then return to Uncle Damon's shop, and Sogo apologizes to his uncle for not bringing back bread. But the uncle tells them to sit down so he can make something for them to eat. Sogo then tells Roman about this mysterious girl, but the story of a girl falling out of a crystal sounds very hard to believe. However, this girl is involved with the military, so they should be careful, and if they want to turn her in, they need to think carefully. Uncle Damon then brings food to help them forget their troubles. Suddenly, the girl wakes up and pulls the plate of cakes a little closer using her psychic powers. Kaon asks the girl if she likes to eat and offers her a piece. The girl then becomes close to Kaon and begins to imitate her actions and words. Roman asks Sogo if there's any way to find more information about the girl, but to investigate, they at least need to know the girl's name. Perhaps now they should wait for the girl to tell them everything so they can have more information. For now, Kaon suggests letting the girl stay at Sogo's place, but Roman doesn't accept this, so Kaon proposes that she will stay here together and postpone the wedding with Roman. Roman will persuade his parents, and Uncle Damon has no problem with this, so the immediate plan will proceed as above. The 2 girls then go upstairs to take a bath. Sogo suddenly discovers a strange sphere in the middle of the house and doesn't know who dropped it. Meanwhile, the captain has returned to headquarters. He goes with a female colleague, and they both see a robot. According to the general, this is the latest generation of combat robot, and he wants the captain to pilot it. He agreed, but with one condition: he will have the right to choose soldiers for his team. At that time, Sogo was about to examine this stone to see what it was, but as soon as he started to cut it, the stone cried out in pain and burst open. It then turned into a snake and claimed it would protect the girl that his group had kidnapped. It tells him that the girl's name is Felia. It intends to transform to attack Sogo, but doesn't have enough power to transform. Kaon and Felia then run in. Because Felia refuses to dry her hair, she ran away, causing Kaon to chase after her. Felia then throws a towel at Sogo and only accepts letting him dry her hair. The stone snake doesn't accept Sogo touching Felia. Meanwhile, the captain has gone to a prison to meet a prisoner. As soon as the guard pulls up the prisoner's head, he spits a tooth into the guard's face and escapes from the chair. He clings to the ceiling, then lunges at the soldiers, causing them to fire wildly. And then, after dealing with all the police, the captain is behind him. But he turns out to be an acquaintance of this prisoner, and he's here to bring this criminal back to the team. The next morning, Kaon teaches Felia language, and according to the snake, Felia is happy with everything because she's seeing them for the first time. Uncle Damon then asks Felia to bring food to Sogo. She uses her power to bring the food to him, but the snake tells her not to abuse her power like that, causing her to lose focus and drop the entire plate of food. Sogo reflexively reaches out to catch it, unexpectedly releasing power that turns the snake into the mecha from before. And according to Felia, this snake's name is Mura. Mura then snatches Sogo's breakfast, making him angry and chase after it. Mura believes it has lived on this planet before humans, so it's a noble creature and Sogo has the obligation to respectfully offer food to it. Sogo throws a broom at Mura, causing it to dodge and fall into Uncle Damon's curry pot. It spills the entire pot, angering the uncle who chases both of them outside. Mura thinks Sogo is petty for making a fuss over just a breakfast. but he believes it's Mura's fault for causing trouble. However, Mura argues that it's Sogo's fault for activating its power, and besides, it saved Sogo's group in the cave, so he should be grateful. Sogo and Kaon then take Felia to the market to have fun and shop. Felia seems to really enjoy the items there. Kaon buys whatever Felia likes and makes Sogo carry everything. When getting off the train, Felia wants to play with the fountain, making Sogo drop everything to rush over. After buying various items and having fun, Mura tells them about Felia's identity, that she is the breath of this planet. Her presence contains nature and life to ensure the world's peace, and it is the guardian responsible for protecting Felia. But no one listens. The group then goes to a bakery to eat a bit. The shop owner is an acquaintance of Sogo and thinks Mura is just a toy Sogo created, but it must be genius to be able to argue with Sogo. Otto sees that the group seems happy, but Roman still thinks Kaon must be worried now. A while later, Kaon buys more cake for Felia. When Sogo objects, she argues that girls really like sweets. Suddenly, Felia is bumped by someone, causing the cake to fly, and she has to use her power in public. Mara forbids this and causes the cake to fall on the face of a young man wearing glasses. He ignores it but keeps his attention on the group. He returns home and starts hacking into the city system, causing chaos. All this is just to target Felia because he's fascinated by her power. The captain and the man he just rescued, Pac, are also in the city, and the captain realizes that the person behind this must also be related to the stock market crash a few years ago. Sogo's group has now escaped to a high place, thinking they're safe, but some nearby construction robots have been hacked and are chasing the group. Sogo and Kaon split up to run. Sogo shoots these skateboards into his face to make him target him. He both makes robots chase and discovers Felia and Kaon in the cable car, so he makes the cable car go higher. He also projects himself to talk and intimidate Felia. Mara can't do anything without Sogo. Felia is scared to the cable car door while Sogo has destroyed that robot to run and pick up the two girls. But that guy has controlled a robot and is wire walking to find Felia. Sogo rushes up, and Mura is thrown to him to activate. Mura rushes to punch the robot down, causing it to break the cable. Everyone falls straight down, so Felia uses her power to slow the fall speed, while that guy is hit by a flying cable, shaving off half his head as karmic retribution. Sogo's group returns home that evening, while that guy is found by the captain. He knows the man is Ulfried and wants him on the team. In the following days, Felia is allowed to work as a server at Sogo's family restaurant. She always uses her power to attract customers, which Mara doesn't like at all. That evening, while everyone is happy, the uncle hears news that a storm will come in a few days, turns pale, and decides to close the shop tomorrow to prepare for the storm. Ulfried is caught again and forced to find Felia or be cut. Sogo thinks the storm must be crazy. The uncle inside suddenly makes a fuss because he lost his shoes. Felia runs down wearing those shoes, so Sogo advises her to return them to the uncle, but she stubbornly refuses. Mura wonders what a storm is, so Sogo says the sky will be full of dark clouds and there will be monsters. But the uncle comes out with a scary face and says the storm is even worse, with violent rain and wind that can blow off roofs, and thunder rumbling. It was during that storm that the uncle met the love of his life and starts to tell the story. But no one wants to listen, and they all leave. At this moment, Ulfried had helped the captain infiltrate the cameras around the city and started searching for Felia. Suddenly, Ulfried found Felia again, and coincidentally, she was also the captain's target. The whole family was now working on repairing the roof to protect against the storm. Uncle had started assigning tasks and needed Felia to bring the bundle of wood into the house. Seeing Uncle hammering, she imitated him and was supervised by Mura to prevent her from using her powers recklessly. Mura was thrown onto the top of a wooden beam and then thrown back down. Felia got bored, so Kaon invited her to pick vegetables in the garden. The little girl used her powers to uproot the entire garden at once and spin them into a circle. While they were repairing, suddenly the bread seller sister came to find her. Seeing both of them fixing the house, she left the bread inside and asked Uncle to come to her shop later to check something. Suddenly, the Ramon brothers arrived with a robot to help, but Sogo wondered about the cow, and he said it was there to be slaughtered. Alfred spent all his time staring at Felia, which disgusted Pac. Ramon then followed his younger brother's instructions and activated the robot, but there was already a malfunction forcing Mura to transform and stop it. However, both were knocked down by the inertia and damaged part of the shop. Luckily, by evening, they managed to finish the repairs in time. Everyone invited each other to have a party. Roman tried to invite Kaon, but she declined because she wanted to eat vegetarian. Felia kept eating secretly. Kaon still felt jealous of Sogo because he could do whatever he wanted. She also felt sorry for Sogo because he didn't get to see the fruit festival that Felia made in the afternoon. Everyone wanted to see it, so Felia made the fire from the grill fly up into fireworks. Mara prevented it too much and ended up getting hungry. The next morning, Kaon and Sogo had to go to school, so they left Felia at home. She didn't like it, but it was mandatory. She got angry and used her powers, but Mura stopped her. She angrily threw it away and accidentally broke the glass. Uncle had to fix it and took the opportunity to reinforce the shop against the storm. Uncle went out for a while and asked Felia to watch the house. Sogo, who had stopped under the bridge to shelter from the rain with Kaon, received news that the school was closed. Both planned to wait a while for the rain to subside before going home. But during that time, the captain and Pac had come to the shop to capture Felia. Pac wrecked the entire shop before taking her away. Sogo felt uneasy, so he ran home bareheaded, and on the way, he passed by the car carrying Felia away without knowing. When he arrived at the shop, he saw that Felia had been taken away, and Mura had just managed to get back in here after being powerless to help Felia. He saw the whole shop had been destroyed. Mura informed that 2 individuals had come here to take Felia away. He knew they must not have gone far yet. The little girl was now approached by Alfred. He wanted Felia to eat, but she refused and demanded to see Sogo. He thought Sogo had done this to his head, so he would never let it go. Sogo was still rushing through the rain. Mura had sensed Felia's presence and guided Sogo. The captain's group also noticed someone approaching and knew for sure it was Sogo. Kaon had just returned to find the entire shop gone. Meanwhile, the captain's boss had come to the finance committee to ask why they needed the captain to capture Felia. This person believed that Felia's power had the ability to change the entire world. Sogo had now reached the mountain gorge, and Mura informed him that Felia was deep inside. He had to go in, and the captain's group only now realized. The captain remembered that he was the one who appeared in the cave that day. He approached the captain's armored vehicle and was shot at by Pac. Felia tried to call Sogo's name in vain. After dodging for a while but unable to dodge everything, his surfboard was also shot. He had Mura block the way. The captain, seeing that the opponent had revealed himself, brought out his weapon to use. For some reason, Mura lost one arm, so it was much weaker than in the previous encounter. Sogo had sneaked onto the ship but was ambushed by Pac, who was waiting there. He was caught, and Mura outside was also beaten back into its small form. The captain was very frustrated that the opponent had escaped. Sogo was beaten up and thrown into a room to be imprisoned. Meanwhile, the plane to take Felia away was about to arrive. Sogo helplessly called for Felia. She heard and both tried to call each other. He looked up the ventilation duct and met Mura again. It jumped down and transformed its tail into a sword to break the door for him to escape. Felia's door was also opened, but it was Pac opening it. He came to take her away for the handover, but when they reached the door, they heard that the plane couldn't land yet. Sogo chased after them immediately. As he ran up, Pac threatened him with a knife. Felia used her powers to cause chaos. Mura ran up and shot a rope to pull Pac's hand away. He punched Felia. Mura ran up and Sogo quickly activated the transformation. The transformation had changed as Mura now looked more impressive. Seeing the new enemy revealed, the captain ran to the robot to start it up. He had someone increase the robot's speed by 5 times and fired a few shots first. He stopped firing when he entered the battle. Both rushed in to punch each other. Mara seemed to be losing the fistfight, so it took out a gun, flew up, and rained down bullets. The captain found this a bit unsightly, so he also took out his gun to shoot back. Sogo wanted to run to Felia, but was blocked by Pac. He brought out a robot to make sure he could take Sogo's life. The captain couldn't fly to shoot back, so he had to hide behind a rock for temporary cover. He recalled his time in the war before. He raised his gun and fired randomly, hitting once. Feeling encouraged, the captain ran out to attack, but was met with continuous fire from Mura. Taking a whole barrage of attacks, the captain was helpless to endure as there was no way to dodge. At this moment, Sogo was about to take a beating when Felia enlarged her energy ball and flew it towards Sogo. She took him away, and Mura flew after them. All 3 landed in an area quite far from the previous battlefield. Felia realized she had used too much power and would surely be scolded by Mura, but Felia had grown bigger, her body no longer that of a little girl but of a young woman. When they returned, Felia told the group about how she and Mura had seen a shrine, and Sogo decided to go there to find information about Felia. Kaon also wanted to go, but Roman wouldn't allow it, fearing for Kaon's safety. But she wouldn't accept it because it was her life. To avoid arguing, Sogo had Mura tie them up with ropes and then set off with the 2 girls. On the way, Kaon suspected that just going there might turn Felia back to normal, but Mura wasn't sure yet. But according to it, the only type of water that could cure Felia was only found in that temple. Felia then felt hungry, so Sogo thought it was because her body had grown bigger that she got hungry faster. Sogo quite liked Felia like this, so Mura thought he was looking at its master with beastly eyes. As they were about to reach the village, they decided to stop and eat when they arrived. When they were near the village, all 3 saw a wedding, so they went ahead. Sogo's uncle had just gone to buy bread. Just as he was about to enter, he heard a strange sound, so he left the bread seller outside. He went in to check and saw the Roman brothers tied up there. He informed that Sogo's group had tied them up and gone to the shrine. He called home to prepare robots to chase after them. The finance committee noticed that Felia had left the city, so they called the military. They immediately identified the point where Felia would stop and sent people to capture her. Meanwhile, Sogo's group was walking behind the wedding procession when Sogo teased his friend about not having tried on a wedding dress yet. Because Sogo was too close, she was startled and accelerated, overtaking the wedding procession and causing the flower bearer to sprain her ankle. Having caused trouble, Sogo stepped up to take over. When they arrived at the venue, the bride apologized for the inconvenience, but Sogo said it was his fault. The flower girl wanted someone to replace her completely because the flower-bearing couple usually becomes closer, with some even ending up in marriage. Kaon was hesitant because they would be seen as a couple, but Sogo said they were just close friends, so there was nothing to worry about. But she was still afraid she couldn't handle this responsibility, so Sogo let Felia take over. Kaon also disagreed because it was a wedding ceremony, and she was afraid Felia would mess it up. But they said they would guide her, so she should relax. Meanwhile, the soldiers were nearly there and determined not to let the captain steal the credit. But he was also on his way to claim it because he wanted to know the real reason why the old man at the finance committee desired Felia so much. Kaon had been sitting alone feeling sorry for herself. Sogo came to talk to her, and she thought he must like Felia more than her and walked away. She also didn't understand what was happening to herself. Felia had changed her outfit and wanted to know what love was like. The bride taught her a few things about love. Suddenly, people from the administrative department came to capture Felia. They wanted everyone to cooperate so no one would get hurt. They charged straight into Felia's location, but Kaon used a fire extinguisher to obscure their vision and help Felia escape. Sogo had Mura transform to divert some of their firepower, and they decided to capture both at once. While Mura was struggling on one side, Kaon led Felia into a warehouse to hide. She wanted to change clothes to buy time, which moved Felia deeply, and she expressed her love for Kaon. As they were expressing their feelings, they were discovered. Felia was captured, so Mura wanted to rescue her, but was held back by the commander. Kaon tried to save her, but the commander was about to deal with her when Roman arrived with his brother and robot to save his future bride. He shot, but Kaon feared hitting Felia, so he pulled out a meter-long weapon and charged in to strike wildly, successfully rescuing Felia. After saving her, Mura flew in to take both of them away, returning fire and taking down 2 enemies in one strike. Mura's long-range attack caught the commander off guard, forcing him to retreat to avoid excessive losses. The group successfully defended against the attack, allowing the wedding to continue. The captain, hearing of the advance team's failure, temporarily held off on further action. The group then set out on their journey. They had been traveling for a while, and Kaon didn't know when they would arrive. Sogo was driving at this point, and according to Mura, the temple they were looking for was just beyond the next mountain. Roman wanted to go faster, but it was his car, and he knew its engine capabilities. Not to mention they were towing a large metal object, making it impossible to go any faster. Kaon asked why they both came, and Roman said he came to save his bride because his feelings were very deep. Suddenly, Mura was hit by some black objects on the head and fell off, causing Sogo to swerve unexpectedly. The inertia from the robot dragged them a bit further, but Mura realized they were very close to the temple. When they stopped to rest, Roman felt thirsty and asked Otto to get water, but suddenly received a call from the bread seller. She was constantly inserting money because the machine was eating it like water. She wanted to talk to Sogo, so he handed the phone to him and went back to drink water. But the water bottle had disappeared and Mura had drunk it all. Roman was very angry, but Felia accidentally found a water source, so they all rushed to drink eagerly. Roman pushed his way into the middle of the group to drink. While looking at everyone, Felia suddenly saw a butterfly, and then some strange images appeared in her mind, but when Sogo asked, she said it was nothing. Meanwhile, Uncle Daman remembered his time in the military. The captain was wounded and surrounded by enemies at that time. Despite trying to fight back, the enemies were still too numerous. He had to throw a grenade to clear a path and advance in just to save the captain. Both felt reassured because they had each other's support, and both believed that as long as they went together, they would see many interesting things. Both were thinking about that day now, but at this moment, the captain received a message from his spy. The message was a guide about the path he should take. Pak wasn't sure if this path was trustworthy, but the captain trusted his spy, so Pak had to set out according to his wishes. Meanwhile, Sogo's group suddenly had an engine failure in the middle of the road. It was getting dark, so the group decided to rest there. After lighting a campfire, Roman suddenly brought back a bunch of mushrooms and wanted to show off his cooking skills. But after finishing, he tasted it and laughed like a madman, so Sogo had to check and was shocked to find they were all poisonous mushrooms. The captain's superior had come to the council to ask for their opinion on the professor at the finance department who was gradually taking actions beyond his authority. Sogo was repairing the car when Felia came to talk to him. He noticed she seemed to have trouble sleeping. He knew she was anxious, and he was feeling the same way. He was very worried that worse things might happen in the future, but he realized he wasn't alone and had everyone by his side to help. He promised Felia that things would work out, and that he and everyone would protect her. Suddenly, Roman sleepwalked and woke up, so Sogo finished the repairs to go to sleep with Felia. Felia thanked Sogo for his words of encouragement and decided to trust in everyone. But Felia saw a glowing butterfly and followed it. Sogo also went to check, but unfortunately, Pak had brought a robot there to deal with them. Sogo had to call Mura to fight in his place and help Felia escape. Because they were fighting in narrow terrain and Pak was using a gun, Mura was at a disadvantage as it couldn't fly here and could only use its wings as a shield. Kaon woke Roman up because something had happened. Just as Pak thought he was about to win, Mura suddenly broke free and rushed to punch him repeatedly in the face. But right after that, Mura was intercepted by the captain and kicked away. The captain ordered Pack to go find the other two and leave Mura to him. Mura wanted to chase after them, but the captain wanted it to defeat him first. This time, the captain was equipped with a drill as a weapon. Because the captain knew Mura's fighting style well, Mura could hardly fight back and was only being pushed back. Pack had now chased and found the location where Felia and Sogo were hiding. But just as he cornered them both, Roman and his two friends drove the robot to the rescue and opened fire on Pack. Roman was ready to fight back even though his technology was clearly weaker, with the goal of helping Sogo and Felia escape. Meanwhile, Mura had knocked away the captain's drill, but he accepted the challenge and wanted to see how Mura would fight. After a while of shooting, Roman had irritated Pack, who then drew his knife for close combat. Sogo had run to the river when Alfred drove a robot to find them. He had always only wanted to capture Felia. At this point, Mura had been defeated by the captain, who asked if it hated him or hated its own powerlessness. Sogo and Felia were now cornered, but suddenly Roman's robot flew in, causing both Sogo and Felia to fall into the water. Realizing the situation, Mura freed itself and flew down after them. The captain called Alfred, who was going crazy, so he knew he couldn't count on this useless person. Meanwhile, the assistant had come to inform the professor about the council wanting to summon him based on the opinion of the captain's superior. The bread seller had been chatting with Uncle Dahlman and revealed that Sogo's mother was the first to praise his coffee-making talent. He had been disappointed with his hands that had harmed many people, but when he learned that these hands could make something beautiful, he decided to open this shop. He revealed that Sogo's mother had disappeared to hide an important secret, so Sogo was entrusted to him. He had always tried his best to protect him, and now he suddenly pulled out a gun and pointed it at the bread seller's face because he knew she was the spy the captain often contacted for information. He had asked her about Sogo's whereabouts. Sogo had just woken up and saw his friends nearby. He called Kaon and everyone to wake up, but no one knew where they were, and Felia and Mura were missing. The group then ran to search for Felia and Mura. Suddenly, the group saw Felia in the middle of the lake, playing happily with a group of butterflies. She didn't know where this place was. Felia then saw Mura nearby and picked it up to transfer power into it. Suddenly, she was enveloped by a beam of light. That light then turned into a bright circle in the sky. Mura informed that Felia's power was gradually overloading and about to overflow. But the good news for them was that they were about to reach the temple to cure Felia. Sogo came to support Felia and told her to wait a little longer because they were almost at the temple. However, now they needed to find a way to get there. They didn't know which way to go, so Roman suggested going by river. Otto informed that this robot couldn't float on water, so their only option was to make a raft to follow the river. They all started making a raft to get to the temple. Otto and Roman then went to find wood and brought it back. When they had enough wood, Kaon and Felia suddenly brought some mushrooms and tried to make Mura eat them, but it hated mushrooms so much that it ran away. While running away, Mura accidentally smelled a fragrance, and when it followed the smell, it saw a pot of curry. The whole group came to see and found that this curry smell was very familiar. Uncle Dahlman appeared and revealed that he had followed the group here. He knew for sure that everyone must be hungry by now. During that time, the captain had received supplies and improved the robots so they could fly. Alfred had tried to contact the spy, but the bread seller was now sitting motionless due to something Uncle Dahlman had done. The uncle, while picking some ingredients to cook for the group, remembered when he was in the military and was friends with that professor. The professor wanted the uncle to protect Sogo's mother because she had discovered a hypothesis about a powerful energy that could help change the world. The professor desperately wanted to create something that could change the world, so even though it was just a hypothesis, he still wanted to support Sogo's mother in developing it. Uncle Dahlman was ready to be the helper. Both of them approached Sogo's mother, and although she had to work while taking care of her child, she was still able to do the research well. Sogo's group had now completed the raft. He was preparing to proceed with the group, but Uncle Daman advised him not to go further because the army following them would lead to their death. Sogo had already realized this, but he still wanted to protect Felia even at the cost of his life, and that didn't concern the uncle. The uncle had to punch him to help him come to his senses. The uncle thought that Sogo was planning to put his friends in danger just for his own desires. Would he only realize when it was too late? His mother had also lost her life because of her own desires. Human life is very fragile and easy to lose, and once lost, no amount of crying or effort can bring it back. The uncle's words made Sogo reconsider. He turned away for a moment. That night, Roman came to talk with Felia for a while. Uncle Daman truly cared for Sogo, and Sogo cared for everyone, but they were now risking their lives just to help Felia alone. Sogo went to a corner to reflect. Uncle Daman remembered the past when Sogo's mother had created a new type of energy that could replace the current energy source. But some elements opposed it, so the uncle was tasked with dealing with these elements. While he was away, someone came to Sogo's mother's research room to steal the results she had worked hard to invent. When Uncle Daman finished his mission, he discovered that Sogo's mother's laboratory had been attacked. The entire room later exploded, and Sogo's mother lost her life trying to protect her research results. Sogo was too young then to understand everything, so the uncle adopted him. Not long after, the uncle found the person who had stolen Sogo's mother's research results and shot him dead. The uncle then emptied the entire magazine as if to vent his anger. Sogo was now confiding in Mura. He didn't want to leave Felia alone, but Uncle Daman's words were not wrong that he would be facing even more dangers. Sogo decided to let everyone return while he and Mura would take Felia to the shrine themselves. Mura and Sogo used to hate each other, but now for the common goal of protecting Felia, they had become civil with each other. They both found each other to be odd, and Mura decided to tell Sogo something. Mara showed him some pictures of an energy source from space. Those energies had crystallized on Earth and created Felia and Mura. Felia represented that planet itself, and Mara had the responsibility to protect Felia. Each planet with life would have different Maras and Felias. Felia's overuse of her powers could cause her to gradually weaken and disappear, which is why they needed to go to the temple to restore Felia's power. Because Sogo also wanted to protect Felia, Mura told him this. Meanwhile, Uncle Daman had sneaked onto the captain's ship and met his old friend. The uncle wanted to take the card, but the captain hated him because he had left him in this world full of deceit. To the captain, Daman was the strongest warrior he knew, but the uncle thought the captain should consider the Daman of the past as dead during a mission. The current uncle was just someone trying to protect his nephew, and then he disappeared. At this time, Felia was also not sleeping, and was called by Sogo to leave. Now Felia has also decided to let everyone stay behind because she doesn't want them to be in danger. The three of them then set out together while everyone was still sleeping, so they couldn't stop them or demand to come along. In the past, Sogo had often visited his mother's grave to cry. Uncle Daman always came with the curry that Sogo liked to coax him to return, but he adamantly refused because he only wanted to eat the curry made by his mother herself. The next morning, Sogo was still angry at his uncle for being so cold. Felia thought Daman was Sogo's father, so he explained that the uncle was just a friend of his mother. When he first adopted Sogo, the uncle couldn't do anything properly. Cooking and laundry were all terrible, and the curry he made was very different from what Sogo's mother used to make. But even so, the uncle always tried again and again just to let Sogo eat curry similar to what his mother used to make. Kaon's group has now left on the raft because they know Sogo has chosen to go with Felia, so he will have to bear the consequences, success or failure. After the argument with Daman, Roman isn't sure if Sogo will ever return to the shop. Meanwhile, the uncle had used the captain's card to break into a military base, but the captain's card was blocked, forcing him to pull out his gun and shoot the guard straight in the head. Soldiers then came, forcing the uncle to eliminate them all to get inside. He successfully opened the door, but at the cost of being shot due to carelessness. Sogo now knows they will have difficulty getting through because soldiers from the previous wedding incident have now surrounded the area ahead. But Sogo won't give up and will take Felia to the shrine at all costs. Felia then wants Sogo to promise to return the notebook to his uncle and make peace when they return. Suddenly, all three are discovered by enemy planes, so Mera rushes out and transforms to fight. The enemy then hears that there are only 2 kids and a robot, so they mobilize all forces to deal with them. As the two are trying to follow the mountain path to escape, they are discovered by a plane, forcing Mera to rush to rescue them. Mera damages the plane and lets it fall straight down. The enemy then has to use anti-aircraft guns to deal with Mera thoroughly. Roman has now decided to go help Sogo. Otto thinks that Sogo left them behind, so why should they help? Roman believes that Sogo's personality has always been like this, so he needs a beating to wake up. Uncle Daman has now dragged himself to find his professor friend, but he's not here, so the uncle asked the secretary here to pass on a message, saying he will arrange to meet the professor at the cemetery where Sogo's mother is buried. Sogo and Felia are now cornered. Mera is flying in the sky and is being attacked by all the enemy missiles. Although Mera dodged one wave, the enemy fired another, so Mera used these missiles to return fire to the enemy. Mera also rushed to deal with the commander, but the captain came. Instead of aiming at Felia, the captain wants to find Uncle Daman. The uncle has now come to the cemetery to visit Sogo's mother's grave. He says that he has called his professor friend and asked him to do something only he can do, which is to leave Sogo's group alone. The captain really wants to fight Mera, but now he wants to find Sogo more than fight. Hearing this, Sogo decides to show himself to distract so Felia can find the shrine. Because Mera is keeping the captain from catching Sogo, he is ambushed by Pac from behind. Alfid also throws a gun to the captain for him to shoot straight at Mera. He believes that although ganging up on Mera is unfair, it was Daman who taught him that on the battlefield, only victory is most important. Mera is helpless to resist, so the captain shoots him, causing severe damage. Pac has also caught Felia, so the captain gives Sogo a chance. Hand over Uncle Daman, and he will let them both go. The captain reveals that Daman was his teacher, and is currently trying to infiltrate the administrative bureau. The uncle is now recounting beautiful memories with Sogo to his mother. This is the first time he's argued with Sogo, and he's afraid the boy will hate him. He's very afraid of being hated by Sogo because he loves him very much. The captain believes that Daman used to be a cold, sharp blade, but Sogo has worn him down. Sogo thinks that Uncle Daman is just being kinder than before, which angers the captain and makes him fire his gun. But his friends arrived just in time to save him. Roman had thrown some smoke bombs to obscure vision, while Alfred panicked when he couldn't see Felia anywhere, thrashing about, which caused Felia to be dropped and rescued by Kaon driving a car. Sogo rushed to Mera and tried to wake it up, but Sogo suddenly fell into a bullet hole in Mera's body and somehow merged with it. The captain decided to have a final showdown with Mera, but Mera's speed increased dramatically and it gained additional weapons, making it hard for the captain to keep up. Sogo couldn't lose because he didn't want Uncle Daman's efforts to be wasted, and he wouldn't let the captain tarnish Uncle Daman's image in his eyes. He then successfully defeated the captain, and Pac had to fly in to save him. Sogo now felt confident that he had become a true man by protecting Felia. That afternoon, while the uncle was waiting for his professor friend, someone suddenly came to see him. Meanwhile, Sogo had received Uncle Daman's book back from Felia. He realized it was a curry recipe book that the uncle had worked hard to research. Although it wasn't like the dish his mother used to make, the uncle's version was the best. The person who came to see the uncle turned out to be Sogo's mother. The uncle was caught off guard and lost his life because she was the secretary who didn't want the uncle's work to affect her boss. Sogo's group then gradually moved into the shrine area. On the way, they noticed some strange stones and didn't know what they were, but Felia felt both familiar and unfamiliar with them. Sogo asked Mura if they were on the right path, but it couldn't be certain. When Felia almost fell, Sogo caught her, and suddenly Felia had a strange feeling when Sogo touched her. The stones also lit up and reacted to Felia's emotions, prompting Sogo to go and check. Kaon came to ask Felia how she was, and when Felia described the feeling, Kaon understood what Felia was experiencing and told her that one day she would understand. The older sister who sold bread had come to the cemetery to find Uncle Daman, only to discover that he had passed away. Sogo's group had now seen the shrine and decided to rest there for the night before continuing tomorrow. Meanwhile, the captain was waiting for news when a spy suddenly reported that Daman had passed away. The captain was shocked, but also angry because he no longer had the chance to surpass Daman. In the evening, Sogo's group slept around the ancient tree. Felia couldn't sleep, so she went for a walk and found Sogo picking a type of flower that he heard could help reduce Felia's fever. Roman had also asked Kaon honestly about how she felt about their marriage, saying he was ready to call it off if she didn't like it, as he wanted to respect her decision. Kaon advised him not to marry for family reasons, but to marry someone he liked. However, the person he had always liked was her, so if she reconsidered, he was still ready to propose to her. Felia thought they had made it this far thanks to Sogo, but he believed it was because everyone had worked hard together. He then noticed the stones unexpectedly lighting up again, looking very beautiful. Sogo told Felia that since childhood, he had always wanted to find the red crystal for his mother, and he had met Felia because of it. He also got to go on this adventure because of her. Initially, he thought Felia was just a clue to help him find the red crystal, but now his thoughts had changed. He wanted to go to many more places with Felia, and now Felia seemed to understand what Kaon meant when she said she would understand the emotion she was feeling. Felia was about to say something when Sogo suddenly found the flower he needed, so she put it aside without saying anything yet. The next morning, the group approached the shrine, and the three boys tried hard to open the door, but it was quite sturdy. Suddenly, a light appeared around Felia, and right after that, she fell into a hole beneath her feet. The group then accidentally found the entrance and immediately chased after her. But when they arrived, Sogo discovered that Felia was trapped in a crystal, just like at the beginning. Sogo advanced to rescue Felia, but the surrounding water pushed him back. It seemed this place didn't allow them to get close to Felia. A beam of light shot up into the sky, and the professor realized the moment he had been waiting for so long had finally arrived. The crystal then radiated and unexpectedly transformed into a robot similar to Mura but black in color. Felia was absorbed into the black robot, forcing Sogo and Mura to engage in battle. As Sogo and Mura charged forward, they were suddenly pushed back by a shot from the black robot. It then fired a few shots at the ceiling to fly out of the shrine. Sogo and Mura didn't know what the black robot was but pursued it anyway. Both sides then took their fight outside. Sogo noticed that the black robot was only trying to escape and fired back only to shake him off, but he had gotten close enough to force it to use its weapons to fight back. Sogo wanted Mura to be careful because Felia was inside, so they couldn't attack too aggressively. As both sides continued to chase each other through the clouds, the black robot suddenly hid in the clouds to launch a surprise attack on Sogo, causing him and Mura to fall. Felia now woke up inside the robot, while Sogo was waiting for a moment when the black armor was vulnerable to attack. Just as he saw an opportunity, he and Mura charged forward. However, his plan failed, and he was stabbed by the black armor. Mura was damaged and was about to affect Sogo as well. The black armor didn't understand why Felia cared so much about humans. She and the black robot then made a deal that she would do as it said as long as it spared Sogo. The robot then allowed Sogo to see Felia one more time. She asked Sogo not to follow her anymore, telling him directly to stop looking for her and leave her alone, then left with the armor. Sogo then fell helplessly, and his friends came running to find him. He wanted to know what the armor was, but Mura had no answer for him. Suddenly, the older sister who sold bread called to inform them of Uncle Daman's death. Sogo blamed himself for not being able to do anything, and thought he should have listened to his uncle from the beginning. If he hadn't foolishly followed his own ideas, his uncle wouldn't have had to die. Roman wanted to punch him, but Kaon slapped Sogo instead. She said she was very annoyed to see her childhood friend, whom she liked now, becoming someone who only ran away from reality. The person she liked before was someone who believed in justice and never abandoned friends. She said directly that she would go to rescue Felia regardless of whether he followed or not. Kaon had once again ignited Sogo's will, and he agreed to go along. The group then set out together, and Sogo believed he would rescue Felia once more. Felia now faced the professor, who was also the person Uncle Daman wanted to meet before he died but couldn't. He found her miraculous, being essentially a stone but having emotions like a human. Felia tried to ask him where this place was and why she was brought here, but he only said that the whole world needed her power. He felt sorry that he would have to destroy her cute appearance. Sogo's group was now on their way to find Felia. Soldiers and planes blocking their way were shot down by Mura. Sogo and Mura then found Felia's location. Mura noticed that Felia was still okay but seemed quite scared. Sogo momentarily lost focus and nearly got shot, but as he dodged the bullet, Roman fired from below to support Sogo. Roman wanted him to focus because there were still many enemies. Roman then noticed a barrier around the area where Felia was held captive. Indeed, the Economics Bureau had captured Felia, and Otto wondered what they wanted from her. The shield was quite thick, so they needed to find a way to penetrate it. Sogo then shot down an enemy plane, and it fell straight into the shield, exploding and creating a hole in it. As soon as the opportunity arose, Sogo immediately advanced before it could recover and close. Sogo only managed to reach his hand through the shield and repeatedly punched it to widen the gap. When it was big enough, Sogo let Mura enter. But just as they entered, suddenly Mura encountered a problem and fell down. Kaon also lost contact with Sogo's group. Somehow, Mara had been transformed into human form, and she shot webbing to get Sogo out of danger. When she jumped down below, she was shocked to find herself in this form. Meanwhile, the Roman group was trying to find a way in to support Sogo. Otto found the power source of the shield and decided to go there to destroy it in order to get inside. Sogo didn't understand why Mura had been transformed into this shape, but Mara thought that this barrier might have changed her transformation structure. Felia had already been taken away for experiments. The professor had pumped a type of liquid into the machine holding Felia, and was impressed that she could cry like a human. The Roman group had now reached the location of the shield's source, while Sogo didn't know how to get past the soldiers when he was helped by the sister who sells bread. She believed that what she was doing was fulfilling Uncle Daman's wish. She thought Felia was being held on the top floor, so they both ran off. She thought this was the least she could do to help Sogo. The professor now wanted to turn Felia back into a mineral member as she was originally. He believed she had been contaminated by human emotions and needed to be purified. He believed that only when she was completely purified would she become something that could help make this world more prosperous. Sogo and Mura were now surrounded again, but this time the captain and pack came to help. They no longer wanted to be the Economic Bureau's hunting dogs, so they rebelled. However, the captain believed he wasn't helping Sogo, but was looking for the person who killed Uncle Daman to take revenge. Both of them took the opportunity to leave while the captain dealt with the enemies blocking the way. The Roman group was also causing chaos out there. There were quite a lot of enemies guarding the source of the shield, but Roman thought this was nothing compared to what they had been through. Meanwhile, the professor believed that once she completely crystallized into a crystal, this world would no longer have conflicts and wars. The Earth would become a prosperous and equal country. Sogo and Mura accidentally triggered a trap and fell off the floor. At that time, Felia had completed half of the process of turning into a crystal. He then noticed Sogo was here and knew he was the son of his late friend, so he asked the secretary not to harm Sogo, but to bring him here. But the secretary slowly approached and then stabbed the professor to death. However, Sogo and Mura were still brought up here. She had long been aiming for the stone that Felia created. She intended to kill Sogo so Felia would have no hope left and would turn into the purest stone. With just Felia, she would be able to create a real paradise. Mura rushed to attack and argued that the earth was already beautiful enough without Felia. But she didn't want to help make this earth better at all. She wanted to use Felia to save her dead planet and didn't care if this world died because the people here were too stupid. While Mura was fighting, Sogo had run up to try to save Felia. He tried to smash the machine in vain and blamed himself for not chasing after her back then. The secretary believed that all humans were the same and were a bunch of fools. Felia had completely turned into a crystal. Her planet had also arrived right above and Felia was completely encased in stone. She then transformed into a robot to finish off Sogo. But Roman's side had timely destroyed the shield and helped Mura transform in time to protect Sogo. Mura had pushed the secretary back and decided to protect Felia together with Sogo. In the mental world, Felia only met Sogo and he apologized for coming late. But she didn't care because he really had come to save her. She had asked Sogo where everyone else was, but he just stayed silent. He believed that no matter what, he would still be by Felia's side and wanted to go with Felia to a world with just the two of them, a happy and ideal world. Even if there was no one else left now, Felia still had him. However, he still worried that he alone will not be able to fully protect Felia, but he still believed that in a world meant only for the two of both will find peace, a world where there is no harm but only happiness for everyone. Outside right now, a giant ship has risen in the middle of the city. Meanwhile, Felia is being asked by Sogo to give him the key so they can reach that ideal world. This Sogo wants her to use her power as she has always done before. If she's unclear on how to use that power, he suggests she just use it and they'll figure out how to explain this power together. But when she sees this attitude from Sogo, she realizes this isn't the Sogo she knows. That Sogo starts turning into a monster, but right after that, a punch lands and the voice of the real Sogo reaches Felia's ears. Outside, the real Sogo and Mura have pinned down the black robot and stabbed it to pull Felia out. She resists and causes the crystal to fall and shatter. Felia escapes from the crystal. Mura then proceeds to destroy the black robot completely, turning it into a bug. Sogo quickly runs to Felia. Felia is happy to meet the real Sogo she wanted. Suddenly, the mark on Sogo's hand appears, and she realizes that he is the one she needs because all of Felia's power is in the mark on his hand. Sogo is then swept away by the shards of the crystal and trapped inside it. The bug flies up and merges with the crystal containing Sogo. She thinks that Felia is now nothing more than an empty shell and takes Sogo away. When Felia wants to go rescue Sogo, Mura stops her because her power is now insufficient. But she thinks that even if it's not enough, she still wants to go because Sogo has saved her many times no matter how dangerous it was. Therefore, she also wants to go save Sogo. The black robot is now waiting for the two worlds to collide and become a single world, and at that time, she will start using Sogo's power. Felia has recklessly abused her power to enhance Mura to make her look cooler and more awesome. Mura is also fed up with Felia because she is truly a troublesome master. The two of them then go out into space together to fight. Everyone has heard about a planet overhead, so they quickly evacuate. I wonder where these people plan to escape to when the two worlds are about to collide. A vortex has started to suck the two worlds together, while the two robots have now faced each other once again to fight. The black robot has fired shots to push Mura back. When Mura tries to dodge, the black robot flies far away to keep distance. After a few exchanges, they realize that the black robot is also a guardian angel. When Mura is attacking too aggressively, Felia has to remind Mura not to harm Sogo. She then chases after the black robot and asks why she is targeting Sogo when she already has a master. She reveals that her master has died, killed by the very people living on that planet. The planet she used to protect was a beautiful place with many magnificent natural landscapes. She was proud of her master's world and happy to serve that person, until humans began to multiply and gradually spread all over the world. Then the humans there exhausted all the resources and caused her master to die. Jealous of Earth, she came here hoping to find a new master, and now she needs Sogo to merge the two planets into a new planet to continue her mission. But when she arrived on this Earth, she couldn't meet Felia yet. She had waded through 3 civilizations passing, so now she couldn't be picky and had to accept the professor as her master, until Felia and Sogo appeared. Felia should have been the one she needed to capture, but she didn't have the key to unlock the power. And now the black robot thinks everything she's done is a challenge to turn her into an omnipotent angel. Mura thinks the black robot is crazy, but she believes that impure beings like Mura need to disappear. Both sides have engaged in battle, and Mura can't fight at full force for fear of harming Sogo. The black robot believes she doesn't need this Earth with its humanity, but will create a perfect world according to her will. The black robot then informs Felia that it was her power that pulled the robot's old dead planet to Earth at this time. So Felia tries to fly down and use her power to prevent this dead planet from colliding with Earth. But as the black robot said, Felia's power is now all in Sogo's hands, so she can't do anything. Mura and Felia are then hit by the black robot and severely damaged. The two planets are also about to show signs of breaking apart. Felia realizes that she's not like an angel, but a demon for causing Sogo's homeland to be on the verge of destruction. But Mura believes that if she had never given life to this planet, none of the good things would have happened. Felia then tries to use her power again. Mura is happy to be Felia's protector. She then turns back and uses all her strength just to rush forward and hug the black robot to send a message to Sogo. They then meet again in an all-white space. She expresses her love for him and that she will always be by his side, watching over him at any cost. The two planets then return to normal. Sogo wakes up in the cockpit and reunites with his friends. In his hand is a red crystal that helps him remember Felia, and the movie ends here. But not quite. In the epilogue, we see that Kaon and Roman have settled down together and have 2 children. The Colonel has taken over the cafe left by Uncle Daman. Fried has become a successful businessman. Otto has become an astronaut. As for Sogo, he has become a professor and geologist, and the memory of Felia always remains in Sogo's mind. This is where the movie truly ends.